Hello and welcome to another video. This is a bit of a strange video, but the more I think about it, the more I think this is actually quite an important video to make. So this is the problem. Let me demonstrate. So this is actually a Filofax Sherwood I've used every day for nearly 32 years now. So it's a typical vintage Filofax. This one I believe is made, well, I purchased it new in 1993, but that's beside the point. This is a thing. So imagine that you want to write a note, maybe a diary, you're keeping a journal, something like that. So this isn't just jotting a note, it's writing down the page. But there is a problem, and I want to show you this. So I just want to hold my hand here and start writing, and you can see from here that there is no movement of the paper relative to either my pen or the Filofax, because I have my hand firmly on the paper holding it. But you get to this point, and you know what I'm going to say. You get to this point, and then your finger drops off the page, and so the page is no longer being held, and so you're writing like this, and you're writing and writing, and I don't know whether you can see. Well, let me zoom in. Let me zoom to here. Okay, so look at the relationship between the page and the Filofax. It's just all over the place, isn't it? And what does that do to your writing? Well, it just makes a mockery of your writing, especially if you're neat. You could just about do it. You could just about do it if you are, see there? You could just about do it, but obviously it depends on the ring size. But the rings, these are standard Filofax rings, standard Filofax paper, punched, I'm not quite sure. I can never remember. I think it's 5mm, isn't it? It is, I'm not hand punching it myself. These are pre-printed Filofax pages, and you can see that it's just impossible, isn't it? So what can you do? What can you do? Well, a couple of things, and this looks a little bit Heath Robinson. If you don't know who Heath Robinson was, you can look him up. But he was an illustrator making fanciful and over complex creations. Wonderful illustrations. But I have in the past used a coat hanger. There we go. And you can see that the page is now firmly clamped in relation to the Filofax itself. And if we do that and we go down to here, let's just zoom in again and see if there's any movement. Look closely at the hole. Yeah, it's okay, isn't it? Even down here, it's perfect. No problem at all. And you can get all the way down to the page, and then your prose is neat and tidy, and as a reflection of your true self. But this isn't practical in reality, especially if you're trying to clamp a whole wedge of paper in your Filofax. I mean, these are only 7/8 rings, but as we know, there are Filofaxes that can store much more paper, and so this sort of thing doesn't really work. But there is an answer, and I have been using it to great effect, and it was a serendipitous discovery. I should have realised anyway, and I don't think I've mentioned this before, but let me do something. First of all, we need to assume that we're going to write on this piece of paper, and it's no big deal, because if you're writing your journal, you're probably doing it at home, so you've probably got space to actually, you have the opportunity to take a piece of paper out, and then just temporarily, mind, just temporarily, and then I have got this. This just happens to be slightly larger than I need, because I'm working on making my own Filofax, as channel members will already know. But this is just an average piece of leather. It's Italian Pueblo leather, very nice. And I am going to be making this is slightly too big, but the method and the madness is because when I fold it over, and I'm going to trim it into a mini sized binder, similar to like a plotter, if you like, or a Me Plus, or or indeed a woozy. So that's the idea, same material. But I digress, because if you put your paper here, and I want to be very, very careful here and demonstrate. So again, you've got your hands on the paper, so you're holding it, and you can go all the way down and then all the way down, and you get to this point, don't you, where there is nothing holding the paper onto the base. It's not being held steady. But I just want to, let me see if I can move it so that you can more readily see whether there is any movement in the paper. So let me do that, and then I'm going to just set it up so you can see, is there any movement of the paper? I'm not putting any undue pressure on the pen, because obviously the pressure you bring to bear on the pen will be purely determined on your writing style. But let's have a look at this. So I'm writing. There's a little bit of movement when you first put your pen down, but very little movement. Very, very little movement. Here we go. Last bit. And why is that? Well, obviously, the rough side of the leather, the flesh side of the leather, has just enough grip to hold this in place. And then, once you have written, you can maybe turn it over. If you're using fountain pen, perhaps a bit of blotting paper so you don't let ink seep onto your fine leather. And then once you've done it, you can fit it into your Filofax as per normal. I mean, this is what a Filofax is designed to do, to be able to insert and remove pages. But how long does it take? How long does it take to do that? Maybe 2 or 3 seconds to remove it, 2 or 3 seconds to replace it. And it has the added advantage that you could remove this, and then you could be writing something while referring to something in your Filofax. So let's say you had something there and you were reading it and you were referring to it by when you were writing, then that it's almost like an analog version of Windows on the computer, isn't it? You've got 2 screens open, one where you're writing and one where you're reading. And I think that although this is a very simple scenario, it is actually something that I suspect many people don't do, because they are many people. I read comments saying, the rings are getting in the way of my finger, and I can't do this if I'm right-handed or left-handed, and not many people complain about the waggling, the movement of the page as you're writing. I don't really see comments like that, but I do see many comments saying the rings are in the way and it's really frustrating. But this harness, I would say, if that is you, harness the advantage of a Filofax simply by having rings that will open and shut. It is as simple as that. So thanks very much for watching. I appreciate that. Until my next video, goodbye.